This is the Holy Hour, the All Cure podcast. Thanks so much for joining us. I'm Gavin, and we are continuing our coverage of the 2016 tour, picking up with our good friend Arusha, right where we left off. She's with her friends Ian and Stephanie still. Thank you to them so much for sharing your stories. But sounded like Kansas City turned out to be quite another amazing show and evening. Just when you think that this tour couldn't have any more surprises in the set list or crowd or anything, they prove it wrong. Continue to listen and you'll see why. We also get scoop on Chicago, nights 1 and 2. Luc joins us for a pre-show night 2 discussion with Arusha. And then Megan and Arusha continue on with a full coverage of night 1 and 2 of Chicago. And boy, that sounded like a pretty amazing one. Remember when this tour first got announced, it was just New York, Chicago, and LA. So it could have been the one that you had to go to. So you wouldn't have been disappointed apparently. But she'll tell you why. And I'm gonna let Arusha ride this whole one out here and finish up the goodbyes on this one too, because she says some really nice words about Orlando, and obviously everybody here at the Holy Hour podcast, our hearts go out to everybody there too. And I'd feel real shitty just chiming in with Instagram accounts and stuff like that after such kind words. So all the links at this point you should be able to find. Check out curefandocumentary.com. Otherwise, Arusha, take it away.
All right. This is Arusha, your old friend.
Hi, Arusha.
From Bush, a Cure Fan Documentary, with Ian and Stephanie Christensen.
Hello, Ian. Hello, Stephanie.
So we
Hello.
we just left. Where are we? Kansas City.
Yeah, Starlight Amphitheater. Under the stars.
And Ian, what were you just saying? You think you need to do what from now on?
So, years ago, because I have nothing better to do with my life, I sat down and, rated each album in order of, which ones are my favorite songs on each album. Then I made a list of all my favorite songs to figure out which album I liked the most. And I actually can't remember if it was Faith or Pornography, based on my whole rating system of...
Can you turn down the air just a hair?
Yeah.
Based on my ridiculousness. So I was just saying, tonight, after the main set of the show, that I kind of feel like I should do that with all the shows I've seen, because tonight, the only shows that I can think that were better than this were, Trilogy, of course, because they played the entirety of Pornography, and I'm like,
Yeah.
But the only other show I can think that even compared to this was Hamburg in 2002. Mm-hmm. I've never seen Kyoto Song until tonight. Mm-hmm. I've obviously never seen Too Late, because they've played it 5 times ever. And I love Prayers for Rain. I love Disintegration. Shake Dog Shake. It was utterly dreamy. It was like that Jake guy from 16 Candles. It was that good.
Oh my god. That's a tall order.
I was seriously about to burst into tears 7 times.
It was really good.
And I remember, during Disintegration, I'm about to burst into tears, and I'm thinking, I'm standing next to my wife, who I love with all of my heart, and I'm happier than I've ever been in my life. And I'm about to cry about this terribly depressing song, but not because I'm depressed or sad about it, but because I'm like, holy shit, I fucking love this song.
Right.
And now I've run out of things to say.
I got some really good video footage of you guys during that, and during the new song. It was amazing, and I tried to get some of Arusha dancing, and I don't know, it just turned out really good.
Oh, good.
When I was watching it, I really was enjoying filming you.
I don't dance very often, and I was getting down during the walk.
It's true. It's true. I witnessed that.
You're like, I've seen Ian dance 7 times in my life.
That's not true. We used to go to dance clubs. Don't lie to your wife.
That never happened. I'm too cool to dance.
He was one of those guys who danced.
But only to Aphex Twin and the Stone Roses.
No, no, you used to dance to Third Uncle like a maniac.
Oh my god, I love that song.
Yeah, Third Uncle. You would go fucking batshit.
I was talking to her about that song the other day, about how it's one of the greatest covers ever.
Yeah, it is.
And I'm not a huge Bauhaus fan guy anymore, but it's a really great cover.
But yeah, I mean, as suspected, you know, I think another thing that as you see The Cure more and more, you realize that sometimes you go to those small towns, man. Sometimes you get the craziest set list.
Last fucking dance. Like, I'm so happy for you, because you've never seen it, right?
Well,
Until
I've seen
tonight?
it like 5 times on this tour.
Oh, I thought you had never seen it before tonight.
No, I was saying that that's my theme song.
Oh, well then it's not special anymore.
Oh, God. Well, they did play that flawlessly because although the whole set was incredible, there were some technical errors in Close Down.
Which
Yeah,
kind of
what
broke my
happened?
heart. So, I think his guitar was out of tune. Because
something was fucked
after
up.
he tried to play the first guitar part, he was like fucking with the neck of his guitar.
Right.
Like, I mean, I don't understand. Like, I don't think you could forget how to play it. It's like 6 notes, and they play it pretty
something
much
else.
every other night. So it was, I don't know if he started playing the note like on the wrong string and just kind of was like, well, I can fake it, but
Right.
it didn't work out. But,
Yeah, Close
that
Down,
was-
there was some technical shit and
But they still played Close Down, so it's like, whatever.
no, I mean, look,
Like-
you know, I honestly, like, I'm not a person that's like, oh, they messed that up, you know. To me, it's always about the experience. And tonight was definitely an incredible show. I mean, can we talk about Kyoto Song? Oh wait, you already did, right?
It is not this one either. Oh, I know. I've never. So that's one of those songs that they've played pretty often over the past 25 years. I mean, not a lot, but I would like go to some shows. They wouldn't play it. I'd skip 2 shows. They'd play Kyoto Song both shows, and then I'd go back and there'd be no Kyoto Song.
Right.
So I want to see every song or every album in its entirety, and Kyoto Song has brought me pretty close
Right.
to Head on the Door. Like, I still haven't seen Screw in 6 different ways.
Have you seen The Baby Screams?
I have. I saw it in Hamburg in 2002, and it's pretty amazing live.
I'm gonna pause it for a second.
Encore, I was hoping, like, I had this idea in my head, like, they should just do Forest, Primary, Charlotte, Hanging Garden, like a little mini standing on a beach
Right.
singles thing. Because they played Hanging Garden at, like, a few of the shows at the very beginning.
Yeah.
And I've seen it before, but I really like that song. I mean, I love watching Jason or Boris or Lowell or whoever is playing drums on it. It's just, it is a bit magical.
Yeah, I mean the crowd tonight was much more into it, I think, overall than last night. And that even if people were like, a lot of people were just sitting there, you could just tell that, like, I don't know, the crowd was, I mean, because I spent a lot of time walking around because that venue is really interesting to me. I mean, it was
Beautiful.
you know, in some respects a standard layout band shell kind of venue, but it was beautiful. It was a beautiful night. The weather was great. Beer was okay.
A little warm.
It was a little warm, but you know, for a nice summer day. I mean, I feel like the standards that they're playing now on this tour is burn, and I danced my ass off. The drums just sound so fucking spot on.
They really do. I mean, the drum, Jason's drumming is, it's out of this world. You know, so all the people who don't like Jason, go fuck yourselves. But that's kind of how I felt like that for years. Like I think when I saw him play Trilogy, and when I was watching him play, I wouldn't think, oh, I wish Lowell was here, or I wish Boris was here. Like, it didn't matter. I was like, he's so good.
Right.
And him and Jason and Simon together they're so tight now. Like in '96,
Turn right onto Ward Parkway.
they were a little not as tight in '96, and obviously because Jason was new.
Right.
But since they've been together for years, it's the core of that band for me.
All right. I have to put on record that this is about, 3 hours after we were rapping about The Cure, and we're in, I guess, Garden City, Missouri?
Yes.
I think, and population 109, and
100. It was a little more.
169?
It was under 150, but over 100.
Anyway, so we're driving down the road for probably an hour, and it just seems like there's no rest stop, no place to pull over anywhere, and it's beautiful. It's like a warm summer day. There's yellow flowers, I don't know what kind they are, blooming all over the place. And Ian and I are like, oh my God, we've got to find a rest stop. All of a sudden, this little tiny gas station, straight up from 1942, pops up, and we just met two of the nicest people I've ever met at a rest stop in my life. It was a small gas station with like a,
He's owned for 39 years.
Wait, what?
I think he said he owned it for 39 years.
Yeah, family owned, 39 years. His friend was just sitting in there watching TV. They had Duck Dynasty posters in there. I don't know. I feel like I just witnessed, I just got
A little bit of the last bits of America right there.
yeah, a little time with the last bit of America before that place gets demolished and a fucking Flying J comes in, or whatever, even worse than that, Walmart. So that's another great thing about driving across the country. If those sort of weird, tiny little experiences are of interest to you, they're kind of neat,
23 miles, we're going to get on Interstate 72 East.
Okay.
I'm a city person, and I love cities. I lived in San Francisco for 13 years, and now I've lived in New York for 6, and I don't want to live anywhere else, but I notice the differences between even those two cities, like in the way people dress and the way people act and the way people talk, and those differences in like the personality and the heartbeat of a city, I find very interesting, and I don't know, I cherish these little moments. And now we're like getting into cornfields, so now I'm scared. No, just kidding. Chicago, night 2. Do you think it'll be a pop set? Who am I talking to? What's your name?
My name's Luke.
Luke.
Yeah, I'm a friend of Megan's.
You're local. This is for the Holy
I'm from
Hour.
Chicago.
This
Yes,
is for the Holy Hour podcast.
I'm from
We're
Chicago.
inside. We're at the front row in a massive pit, a massive floor pit. If it was the Subhumans, we might be dead in 5 minutes, but it's secure, so I think we'll be all right.
This is a large general admission floor we're on right
I
now.
have like a Pandora
sure.
mix that's like Mazzy Star.
So Greg, were you here last
Luke.
night?
A lot, and
That's
I
okay.
started
No, I
with-
wasn't here last night, but my girlfriend was here last night. Our friend got tickets at the last minute, and she came last night, and then today Megan texted me, and I'm here today.
Right.
So my girlfriend and I went to 2 shows
Yeah, different
in a
shows.
row, but different shows.
Right.
Well, I told them we had like extra. I had a ticket that didn't even get used yesterday.
Yeah, I didn't even.
Yeah.
So do you think, since the set list was so dark last night, do you think we'll get pop hits?
Yeah.
You think?
I have no idea what to expect. Oh, I didn't hear a recording. I have no
right, we're doing
idea
a
what to
podcast.
expect, to be honest.
Yeah.
Because they just seem to keep surprising me with the set list and how much they're switching it up and changing it. It's like I have no idea what to expect
I
tonight.
was tracking it all night.
I know
and I noticed the same thing
Yeah.
that from having read previous nights
Yeah,
that
it's
there's some
totally-
rotation going on, right?
Yeah, they're gonna do the blood flower stuff, for sure.
Oh
Just
no,
'cause
they're opening with Figurehead. Oh my god.
I was thinking about.
I want
hear that.
3 grinding halt and a man inside my mouth. Ian.
We're not asking for too much.
Ian, for the Holy Hour podcast, what's your prediction for tonight?
My prediction is I thought they would open with Out of This World, but I kind of feel like it might be Plain Song.
Do you think we'll get a pop set, or do you think it'll be dark like it was last night?
I think because... Did they play a Forest last night? No. Okay, so I think that we'll get the At Night encore. At Night M, play for today of Forest. I suspect we'll get Cold. And then they'll probably come out and play Pornography and say, like, this is for Ian because he's totally awesome. But, you know, I mean, that happens all the time.
Stephanie literally has she has no thoughts in her head. Doesn't that sound nice? It's like meditation.
I think more pop than last night, just because there weren't a lot of pop songs. But I think that we'll get some songs from Pornography and maybe some more of Disintegration.
We'll see what happens, and I'll report back.
Love that bird. That's the one I got about this guy.
This is the intermission vibe. The intermission vibe.
No one cares.
Night 2, Chicago. Check it out. This is 3 rows back from the very front, right in front of, between Roger and Simon. Massive arena. Let's hope that we all stay through the whole show. Godspeed, team. This is Arusha, director, producer of Push, a Cure fan documentary, reporting on behalf and guest of the Holy Hour podcast, and I'm with
Megan from Chicago.
Megan from Chicago, and we are going to. It's actually the day after the Night 2 Chicago, but we're going to backtrack a little bit and talk about both shows. I want to start by just prefacing and saying that it's 2 very, very hot summer days in Chicago, and so a lot of the people that were waiting, for GA were waiting since like 6, 7, 8, 9 in the morning. It was the first really hot summer day that I've felt on this tour because I started in New Orleans, and it was warm. But it wasn't like it was. It
wasn't like the bowels of hell.
Yeah, it was definitely like a test of endurance today. I mean, the last couple of days. So, the first day we had, Megan and Jennifer had great seats off to the side on Reeves' side, and my seat was all the way at the back in the stadium. If you can imagine a giant proper stadium, unlike Boise, Idaho, which was like a high school stadium, which was adorable, but it was. We felt like they were going to pull out the bleachers any second. But Megan, what was the capacity there?
I'm not sure. I haven't looked it up. It's pretty big. It's like a small. It's an arena, I would say. Size.
Yeah.
There's like the floor is all open. That's also the place where there used to be a lot of flat track roller derby, women's roller derby in Chicago. But then there's, I think they play basketball games there for the university, UIC. But then there's like 2 levels of, not bleacher type seats, but what would you call those? There's like a lower and an upper level, and they're both pretty big.
Yeah, it was a very standard giant arena that somebody like Guns N' Roses would play, right? Or would that be even bigger?
No, yeah, they play the bigger. There's even bigger places in Chicago, but it was pretty big for a show on this tour so far.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we weren't sure what to expect, being that like we saw the 3 LA, nights, and we know that there's 3 New York nights coming, and so a deuce, which the first deuce was New Orleans. We didn't know what to expect, and boy, night one.
Yeah, that was a huge surprise. Really, like, best set list I've had in as long as I can remember, including other tours. Came out with a full-on assault on the audience with Shake Dog Shake. Like...
And Megan, speaking of Shake Dog Shake, what was your first Cure concert? What year?
1984 in Ann Arbor, Michigan.
Was that the top tour?
Yes.
Did they play Shake Dog Shake?
Was it the top tour?
It had to have been.
Yeah, yes, it was.
Well,
It was like in October of 84. Yeah, so the top. I don't remember. You know what? I would have to look. I would have to look at this. I would have to look at the set list for that show. I'm really bad at remembering what shows were played where. And like I think I've mentioned before, I'm not a list maker, so I don't even know the number of shows I've been to. But yeah, and we were talking about before the show, like what would be our dream set list, and we had a conversation like 10 minutes before they came out that was, what if they opened. Well, we had heard they played the top at sound check, so we were, kind of dreaming up, scenarios that we would like to see. But they don't always, even if they play stuff at sound check, they don't even play it in the show. So we weren't fully expecting it. But I said, a top bookend set. So start with Shake Dog Shake and end it with the top. Although they did go backstage and the top was actually the first encore. It wasn't the end of the first set, which is what I would have expected. But when they came out and did Shake Dog Shake, I mean, I think everybody who was around us thought we were having seizures or something. Because we were freaking out.
Yeah.
And everyone's like, well, we're just at a concert, ladies. Calm down.
Right.
And it was hot outside, and the venue was like fairly cool when we got inside, but it heated up really fast.
Yes.
And just the way the set list unfolded, it was Shake Dog Shake, then Kyoto Song.
You can press this.
Okay, sorry, I gotta look at it on the phone. So Shake Dog Shake, Kyoto Song, Night Like This, All I Want, Push, Primary, which I don't think I had heard before, Pictures of You, Like Cockatoos.
Yeah, Like Cockatoos.
Which I hadn't heard before on this tour. Perfect Girl, Screw, The Walk, Charlotte Sometimes, Love Song, Just Like Heaven, Jupiter Crash. Which is,
I love Jupiter Crash.
Yeah.
Love.
Me too. I love it when they play that. From the Edge of the Deep Green Sea, 100 Years, Give Me It. And then Encore, The Top, which, according to Chain of Flowers, says first time Top has been played in the U.S. in 32 years. Last time was November 17th, 1984 in NYC. So that was that same tour I saw them on, but it was the New York show,
Right.
which was later in the tour.
Right.
And then they played second encore, Want, Never Enough, Fascination Street, and Burn. And I am really enjoying Burn at
Me
these
too.
shows.
Me
It's
too.
a high point. Last night, I think it was maybe like one of the high points for me in the show. It was just really good.
Yeah.
Third encore is The Exploding Boy, In Between Days, Doing the Unstuck, Friday I'm in Love. Fourth encore was Lullaby, Let's Go to Bed, Close to Me, Why Can't I Be You, Boys Don't Cry. But that whole first part of the set, it was just really good. It was just really nice to have no idea what they were going to play next.
Yeah. Yeah. True. Like, again, a recurring theme for, the uncommon Cure fan, which is the ones who follow them around and see them more than once, is that, like, the excitement and part of the allure is, like, oh my God, like, what are they going to play next? What's the show? What am I going to miss if I don't go to the next show?
Right.
And that's what's so great about seeing them. And then it's also kind of cool, like, even the everyday Cure fan gets to see, like, I mean, what a fucking set list, And I think last night we also were commenting on how tight they're getting.
Yeah, they sound better than they ever have, really. And then the great thing about that first night show is that the audience stayed with them.
Yeah.
It was like even when they were playing songs that people didn't necessarily know,
Right.
the songs were kicking so much ass that people were still loving it.
Totally.
I mean, of course, it like amped up towards the end of like, you know, the party songs. But people really stayed with it for the whole show. I was really happy that my Chicago audience was so awesome
Yeah, definitely agreed.
on night one. I will
Yeah.
qualify that.
Yeah, night one was definitely a hot, sweaty, sticky mess in all the positive ways that could be. It was just everybody was having so much fun. The energy was really high. And yeah, the set list was unbelievable. Every time I hear Burn Now, I just dance like
Yeah.
a maniac, you know?
So what would you say for night one? Like what was like the real high point for you? I think for me it was like hearing that backing track for like Cockatoos, I don't know. It's like a wood bamboo chimey sound. Is that what? I don't even know what that sound is. Like hearing that and going like, oh my God, it's like Cockatoos.
Yeah.
And then just how tight they are on it with all like the parts that are synchronized and it was really good.
Well, I'm still very biased with Exploding Boy. Now I've seen it 3 times.
Yeah.
But that song has always been such a favorite, and it's like, if you're a record geek and, part of the joy of buying vinyl is like you buy the single and it's like, what's the B-side going to be? Is it going to be shitty?
Right.
Or is it going to be mediocre? Or is it going to be better than some of the regular songs? So I think overall the fact that we were like, we knew from like song number 2 that we were like getting a really special set list, and it just kept going. It was like, holy shit. This just keeps getting better and better to specific moments like Exploding Boy or like Cockatoos.
Right.
And then also feeling like the band on this tour were getting tighter and tighter and tighter. And I know that by the time they get to Berlin, they're going to be so fucking tight, and they're going to be pulling out stuff that we're going to be sitting here, maybe not keeping track of it, but 100 shows in, but they're getting tighter and tighter on this tour. And I know, Megan, you said they sound better than they ever have. I don't know if they sound better than they ever have in life, but I do agree that on this tour, like they're tightening up all the loose ends.
Right. They really are. And you can kind of see they are like tweaking things, like you mentioned earlier, that there are like some parts that, got dialed back a little bit and some that got turned up a little bit. And I guess we should talk about the top. It sounded really good for something they haven't played in that long.
Well, the other magical thing about it is, of course, Robert comes out and says, we haven't played this one in a while. And then he actually literally took out a top.
Right. Like
he literally took out a toy top and put it in front of the microphone and played it. And I think that's the other thing that's been special about this tour is that Robert Smith has been very vocal and playful in general.
Chatty.
The first Cure show I ever saw was in 1986. And I still always thought that would be my one and only Cure show and my one and only time to see them. But what I remember about it, other than the fact that I was 14, 15, and like I got to see like cute boys with black hair and crown haircuts wearing skirts, and I was like, wow, that's sexy, like that sort of androgynous thing. Like I'd never seen anything like that, and it totally was sexy to me. So this whole sort of world opened up. But I saw The Cure on stage from very far away, and the lights were black and white, and Robert Smith had cut his hair, and they didn't move.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a great show, but it was a great show for me. For like, I could not tell you how technical they were or anything because I was so young and just excited to be in the fucking building. So over the years, as many shows as we've seen, Robert tends to talk, but not that much, and I think this is the most talkative I've ever seen him.
Yeah, definitely the most talkative I've ever seen him. Another interesting thing about the top was that during the top for the bass part, Simon actually like sat down almost like kind of like at the edge of the front of the drum kit. So he was actually sitting down while he was playing.
Yeah, that was
Yeah,
awesome. 'Cause
yeah.
we were like, what is Simon doing? Yeah, he instead of jumping around like as he does, that was I'm glad you brought that up because
Yeah.
I forgot about that. That was sweet.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was interesting. It just added like
It did for like a song that's so like introspective too. It was
and bare,
bare.
you know.
Yeah. And it had the space in it that you would want it to have, if that makes sense.
Yes,
They
because
allowed the space
you definitely wouldn't want a crazy guitar solo.
with a whammy bar.
Yeah, with a whammy bar in the top. And I think that what you were saying earlier, what we were talking about, like with I mean Reeves's guitar is the newest element in this configuration of the Cure, and it's not new anymore. I mean, he's been in the band now for what, 4 years, 5 years.
Yeah.
But out of Simon, Jason, Roger.
But I think also new in playing this breadth of their catalog, because even with Reeves around, they were playing festivals, they were playing. There was the 2008,
Right,
and the
right.
set lists were more as they are shaped by festival set list or album set list,
Right.
where it's like a puzzle where there's only a number of slots for surprises.
Correct.
And
yeah.
what I love about this tour is that it can all be surprises because they don't, except for maybe like the last encore, which is all the songs to send everybody home feeling like they had a great time. But I like that it does it. So we get to see Reeves playing on a much wider variety of songs from different points in the Cure's history,
Right.
different eras. And it's really interesting to see how that fits in. And it really does add a lot. And I feel like there are parts, and I don't know, I may be wrong. I'm not like a guitar fanboy, but I'm sure somebody will correct me if I'm wrong. But I feel like he's playing sometimes parts that traditionally Robert would play, and that frees Robert up to do different things. Either it be playing different parts of like more rhythm, or maybe not even playing at all. You don't see that?
I don't see that. I see him playing, differently than Perry did. And he definitely, adds more in certain parts. And I think it's just naturally more inclined to add to what is the standard guitar, the written guitar part for that specific song. I think in this tour, as opposed to the Dream tour, there's it's easier for me to hear things that Roger has added or subtracted.
True.
For example, in Disintegration and some tours, that glass breaking sound, which is important to the song, was way too loud. I remember in the Bloodflowers tour for me, because it would just take me out. It would be like dun dun boom boing, and just pull me out of this song, which should be like dun 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 dun. It sort of takes you on a train into this. So I'm disintegrating. At the end, it's sort of like a train leading you to how the end always is, and I don't want this to take me out of that moment. And that's one thing I love about The Cure, is that the way that the songs are often arranged, and not always, but there could be anywhere from 30 seconds to 2 minutes of an orchestral, all instrumental introduction.
Yeah.
A build-up.
Yeah. That's what I like, is that there's it's not usually a typical standard song structure. there's a lot of like building crescendo.
It's like it's
It's
classical. I mean,
yeah,
there's
yeah, it
classical
is.
elements in these pop songs, you know. Whereas like something like "Why Can't I Be You," like dun 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 dun, it starts off instrumental, but then he has this little do 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 do, like that's sort of like more of a classic pop song. Or In Between Days, which has like a few bars of instrumental, you know, your intro, and then you have your chorus, verse,
Right.
bridge. So going back to what, you know, Reeves adds and doing Robert's parts, I don't know, and somebody more technical can call in and
Right.
be like, these two birds don't know what the hell they're talking about. But I don't think
Maybe we should just talk about what they're wearing.
Yeah, right. Oh, you look so, their hair looks. But I don't think Reeves is playing any of Robert's parts. But I think that there's just choices that have been made of like what is played live, because what the Cure. I would venture to say that 60 to 75, or at least 60 to 75% of live Cure songs sound different than they do on the record. So there's
That's
choices.
what I like about it.
Right, but that's what I'm
yeah.
saying, that those are so
Yeah.
you're just recognizing choices
Right.
that have changed with time,
Right.
band, you know, arrangement of like who's in the band and choices that they've
Right.
made.
Well, it's just like I'm Just Like Heaven.
Oh,
When he
God.
used to, when Robert used to sing you instead of you, and I hated that every time. I hated it, and now I miss it.
You miss it?
I miss it.
Oh my God, I am so glad he does not go you.
I would like to have him do it a couple times. Let's mix it up a little bit.
It's like a Vegas act. It's like yo. It's like Tom Jones or something. Like, no.
I like Tom Jones.
I like Tom Jones as Tom Jones, you know. I just, you know, I can take the added hello in Wrong Number, because Wrong Number is such a funny, goofy song.
I could talk about Wrong Number all day. It is. I actually listened to the recorded version last week. Kind of like, why did I never notice this song before? I hate the recorded version. I hate it.
Yeah.
It's a terrible song. I don't like the way Robert's voice sounds on it. It's really flat. But live, it's like super dynamic.
I credit that to Jason Cooper.
And I actually wanted to mention Jason Cooper. His drumming is like one of my favorite things about this tour.
Yeah.
Yeah, he is like killing it every night.
Yeah, and it's funny because I've spoken to other people who don't care for Jason's drumming. They compare it to Boris.
Oh.
And Boris, it's a different animal.
Yeah.
It's a different animal. It's like the only thing that the likeness I could say is that I don't know if anyone listening listens to Calexico, but John Convertino, who is the drummer for Calexico, when he plays drums, it is like, I mean, as a woman, I could say that it's like he's like, his hands are just so, it's like he's not even playing drums. It's so fluid and there's so much subtlety in it. It's not a seduction, but he has such control over these like slight nuances, and it's like the drumsticks just sort of drip off of his hands and create these sounds, whereas a lot of drummers, you see them hitting the drums like you stereotypically would watch someone play drums. Or like when I was learning how to play drums, you know, donk 1 2 3 4, just wailing my hands. So this person that was criticizing Jason was saying, well, he's not as fluid, he doesn't add the texture that Boris does, but it's just different people and different ways of playing.
And I mean, I saw Boris live many, many, many times, and I love Boris's playing, and I think he's a great, great, great drummer, and Jason is a great drummer in a different way.
Yeah.
It is a little bit like harder, like the rhythm section now is really hard and tight, and I'm really liking it.
Yeah, and I mean, I think these are all choices, you know, because in the end of the day, like, it's Robert's band and it's his choice of how he wants the direction of the music to go into. So that's the other thing I find odd about
People criticizing the way it's being played.
Yeah, because these are choices that are being made by the writer of all these songs.
And that's something I've realized in the past couple shows is when I'm at the show and I'm like up and I'm dancing in quotes, which basically just means looking like I'm having a seizure, that I am dancing to the drums and the bass.
Exactly.
That's what I'm dancing to.
Yeah.
I'm not dancing to the guitars or the keyboards. It's the drums and the bass. Which is, I guess, what people typically do. I don't know, but that's...
Well, you can twirl around to... you know,
yeah, right, that's true.
I mean, Robert's guitar has always been so sweet, you know, and that's the other dynamic of The Cure is that, like, Robert's guitar is an extension of his voice. It's like that really, like, beautiful, deep, you know... I don't know. I think that part of the reason why Robert Smith is such an attractive frontman, and I'm not talking about physically, I'm talking about like his charisma and his personal draw, is that his voice is powerful and soft at the same time.
Right.
So he does these interviews and he mumbles and you're like, what? And it almost like, it's like drawing you into him. He's not like David Lee Roth who's like, hey, you know, like he draws you in with his like soft, introspective, very intelligent, very calculated presentation of things. And then when he sings, like he gets into it. You know what I mean? Like, so
right.
He's in that moment and he can wail or he can retract. He has such a dynamic force, but it's still in like this like softer realm of things, and that's the way he plays his guitar too.
Right.
You know, we can talk about night 2.
I know. I just pulled up the set list.
Well, why don't we go into Ace and then we'll come back.
We're buying some gardening supplies and then we'll be right back.
And now a word from our sponsors. All right, we're back from gardening.
Yep.
So I mean, the overall takeaway of the Chicago experience is that night 1 was fucking amazing, and night 2 was fine, but you know, if that was my one and only Cure show, I wouldn't have been thrilled to bits. You know, they played fine, but the crowd was like Megan's been saying, the crowd wasn't that into it.
At least at the beginning. I think towards the end, more people started getting it.
I actually disagree because I, you know, have been shooting little tiny things with my phone, and the cameras that they allow you to come in, and I always notice the crowd noise and response, and it was funny because in one, you know, again, like keeping things in perspective, this band does 4 fucking encores a night and usually plays 2.5 to 3 hour sets, right? But there was one point, I can't remember if it was the last set or the second to last the last encore, the second to last, but we were so close that you could see they came out, and I had noticed the crowd was like, woo! And then they just stopped, and they were just like,
yeah, just waiting, kind of in silence, like
waiting in silence, like
dance monkeys.
Like the Stepford Wives had like taken over the auditorium, and Robert looked at Simon, and you know, I have no idea what the look was for. So
it was it was a little bit of a shrug or something.
Yeah, I mean, to me, like I read it as like, well, I guess who the fuck knows if they're gonna like this or not, or what's going on, because they weren't getting a read. You know, it seemed as though they were not getting a vibe from the audience one way or the other.
I did notice that the audience seemed quieter, but I thought maybe it was just because I had in earplugs when I hadn't the night before.
No, they were quiet. I mean, like, you know, in Boise, they were doing the, like, don't, you know, like, the stomp, more.
Right.
And Kansas City, I mean, it was just, like, even in Hollywood, I mean, for the encores, they'd still keep up the cheering.
Yeah.
But this was just weird. It was, like, yeah, I don't know if our section was just sunburnt.
Yeah, maybe. I think maybe just everyone was like dehydrated and broiled from sitting in the roasting sun for hours. I think it was probably just because of where we were, but we were kind of in a similar location in Denver, and that crowd seemed to be much more into it. And there were also less people like staring at the concert through the back of their phone, which I appreciate people who do Periscope when I'm not at a show and all that, but if you're going to a rock and roll show, try to experience the live show. Otherwise, just stay home and watch it on your computer.
Yeah.
I get so frustrated with that. And it's, you know, these tickets cost a lot of money. Like, why are you going to go and watch it through the back of your phone?
Right.
You know, and then also people are holding up phones in front of other people's faces, and it's I don't get it. I prefer to live the experience. I mean, I take like maybe a couple pictures between, you know, during a few songs. I don't need more than that.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think that it can become, you know, this whole cell phone age that we live in, it just becomes an addiction. You know what I mean? Like, you can become so accustomed to checking social media and video. I mean, the amount of video and accessibility now is it's unbelievable. And for as much as we've seen Cure shows, like, we saw them a ton in 96, we saw them a ton in 2000, a fair amount in 2004. But then since then, from 2004 till now, I personally was like, pick and choose, like, a couple times 2006, I did a few in 2008, you know, life got busy as it does, and I just would like, I made it a point to see him once a year, but obviously I'm not at a lot of shows anymore in my life, at least not to this extent, and it's pretty remarkable, like, how many people watch and experience things through their cell phones,
Right.
as you say.
That happened a lot less when we saw Twilight Sad in the small venue the night before the first Chicago show, right?
Oh,
Like,
yeah, that was
yeah.
great.
Yeah, so do you think that's just because it was a smaller venue, or because the crowd seemed to be really, really into them and know a lot of the words to a lot of the songs? You know, where people weren't doing that. But I hardly noticed, like, any cameras or anything out at that show. It was a small place called Lincoln Hall in Chicago.
Yeah, no, I mean, I noticed that too, and I think it was a combination of things. I think it was because it was a small venue. I think it was because a lot of the people that go to those kind of places don't need to record everything, because maybe they go to a lot of shows.
Right.
I still think that people that go to a lot of shows don't record everything as much as somebody who's like, I'm going to a Cure concert.
Right.
This is a special event. The Cure are, like, look at me, I'm at a Cure concert, or whatever. It could be any band. It could be, you know, like when I saw, God, it wasn't Churches. It was, oh my God. Savages. Yeah. It was like Slaves, Savages.
Yeah.
Like, it was a great show, but they were in New York, and it was a medium venue. It was bigger than the Twilight Sad venue, much smaller than a Cure show, but there were a lot of cell phones out. So,
Okay.
so I think that, you know, like, I feel like those particular people who went to see the Twilight Sad, like you said, they're either Cure fans like us who have just been discovering them, or they were Twilight Sad fans who were just like, I'm gonna get into it.
Right.
Like, there was one guy in front that was so into it. Oh my God.
Yeah, he was like head banging and screaming and singing along,
Yeah.
which was nice to see. Anything that's not just staring with an open mouth, I'm happy to see. Have a reaction.
A fly trap.
By the way, you get a pass for taking pictures and filming because you have it's a project Instagram. You're a documentarian, and you're always very polite about it. So,
Thanks.
Speaking of your documentary, why don't you give them the links?
Oh. So the webpage is curefandocumentary.com. The Twitter is curefandoc. The Instagram is curefandoc. And then Facebook is curefandocumentary. But it should be really easy to find. If you're, an ongoing Cure fan, you go to Chain of Flowers. Craig reposts a lot of my stuff. And, yeah, I'm out there. I'm doing my thing. Doing my best. Yeah, I mean, I think just to maybe finish about Chicago, I think what happens with you get like such a great, incredible set the first night, your expectations are
right. Well, after that first night, I was like, I'm done. No more shows. That was like a total come out, kill it, mic drop. Owned it. And I don't, it's like anything else was going to be a disappointment unless like they came out and played like all of like Pornography and Faith or something,
Yeah, but then last night was a little bit like I'm done in a different way.
Yeah. Yeah. But we're still going to more shows, so.
Yeah.
We'll be in New York.
Yeah, we'll be in New York. I ditched my Montreal plans in a swap for Atlanta, Charlotte, and Maryland, which will be great because I'll get to meet Gavin and his team. And I'll get to go to Charlotte, North Carolina. I've always wanted to go to North Carolina. So, anything else?
Nope. That's it. See you at the next show.
All right. Over and out. So, just a little postscript note, as far as sharing my Cure experiences. So I think the last show I saw was Chicago Night 2. They went to Toronto. The Cure went to Toronto. Sounds like there was some tech difficulties and this and that. Wasn't the best show ever. Probably wasn't the worst. But, so I'm starting to go through what, we experience as withdrawals from going on tour. But I wanted to share my thoughts that it's not, it is The Cure. It is The Cure songs. It's seeing The Cure over and over again. But it's this surreal experience that you start to get withdrawals from. Just being a part of something completely different than your normal life and sort of living out a very surreal experience, I guess. If you're lucky enough to meet the band, it makes it even more surreal. But it's every component that, of the big picture. I have a Twilight Sad song that's stuck in my head. Like the going to the show, meeting the fans before the show, seeing the Twilight Sad, getting to your place in line, seeing The Cure, wondering about the encores, wondering if there's going to be something going on after, or maybe being too tired and passing out and going to sleep. It's all a part of it. Traveling to the next show, seeing another person, seeing somebody from 20 years ago, meeting a new fan who's never seen The Cure before. It's all a part of it, and the withdrawal is definitely not just The Cure. It's the whole experience. So I highly, highly recommend, if you're a Cure fan, definitely go to more than one show in your life on the same tour, because it's very interesting. But any person, if anyone's listening to the Holy Hour podcast who's not a Cure fan, just do what you want to do before the time escapes, because I've gone now to, I suppose, I've followed 3 major Cure tours, maybe 4, 1996, 2000, 2004, and now 2016. And I've seen them once a year, at least. I always try to see them. There's years when I'm too busy with work, or, to be honest, I kind of forget or try to separate myself from that part of my life. But I can say that the one takeaway I'm having right now is that it will have been 6 weeks that I've been on the road. And these 6 weeks have gone by exponentially faster than the 6 weeks that went by on the road in 2000. Granted, I went to every Cure show on that tour in America, except for maybe Florida or something. And on this one, I took the old folks route and took a week off here and there, or a couple days off. You know, I just had to recoup and budget and, you know, do some stuff like that. Do adult things, more adult things. But time goes by so fast, and you hear that all the time growing up. And I don't know about you, but when I was a kid, I sort of said, yeah, you know. I didn't listen, and maybe that's what you do when you're a kid. You don't really listen. But yeah, 6 weeks on the road in 2016 has gone by exponentially faster than 6 weeks on the road in 2000. And I'm sure that it was the same in 1996, and I'm sure that it was the same in 1986, when 6 weeks would have been my summer camp years. So take what you can out of life, and love the boring parts too. You know, love all of it, I guess. And my thoughts are with the tragedy in Orlando, because that hits home, obviously, because it's a tragedy and it's ridiculous, you know, to think about the fact that we live in a time where these mass shootings happen all the time. It's happened at a nightclub where people were just getting together to experience joy, you know. It's horrible that it was, you know, the I can't even say it right, the LGTB community was targeted, but they're just people. They're just people out having a good time. And again, like, celebrating together in what once was a very safe space. You know what I mean? The gay community throughout, like, punk rock and new wave history has been not only a part of, you know, punk rock and new wave, like a very strong part of alternative culture, but provided safe haven for punks who wanted to play shows and didn't have any place to play, or kids who ran away from home and didn't have any place to go because gay people, at least when I were growing up, they were already out. Like, they were already ostracized. You know, the ones that I hung out with, they're like, yeah, parents already don't accept me. I'm living with my whoever. And they already had it much harder than me in certain ways. Probably from when they were born and they started realizing that they were gay. And people started ostracizing them. And my friends growing up, you know, we don't, you know, part of being in an alternative culture throughout history has been that, you know, you sleep with men, cool. Women, cool. No one, everyone, I don't care. Whatever. It's your life. And I just want to do what I want to do and be around open-minded people. So yeah, this tragedy is horrific on multiple levels, as we all know. And my deepest sympathy goes to the friends, families, and loved ones that have been affected by this. I mean, what, you can't stop living your life, unfortunately. You can't. I mean, you could say, like, we could say, like, we're not going to go to a Cure show because what if, that's a target. But unfortunately, you just have to keep going. And so I send my deepest sympathy to those affected, and keep dancing and keep celebrating who you are, everyone. That's all.